Before we ask you some questions, maybe you guys can tell us a little bit, just two-liners about who you are and what you do.
I'm Ross Martin. I like long walks on the beach and sushi. Catherine told me that I would never be able to hear people laugh up here.
No.
If you're laughing, I appreciate it.
I don't think anybody was
Nobody
laughing.
was laughing. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I run marketing, strategy, and engagement for Viacom.
Kern Shearson. I like Ross Martin, and I work on research and data for Viacom, and collectively Ross and I are responsible for Viacom growth initiatives, which is sort of the Viacom innovation ecosystem, finding new ways to work with partners, to think about new technologies, new platforms, new experiences.
Yeah. And so you talk about Viacom, and those of you who are not that familiar, that's the parent company of MTV, Nickelodeon, Paramount Movies, and a bunch of huge other companies together. That's a very big corporate. How do you even start approaching innovation in such a conglomerate environment?
You want me to start with that? Yeah. It's interesting, Ross and I were talking about this. So I come out of a background as an entrepreneur, and I've never had a job before, right? I've never been part of a big company before. I always just did startups or was running my own consulting practice for a long time. And I think I don't know what the rules are, which I'm assuming is part of why they hired me. Like at first I was really nervous and I thought I was gonna fuck it up and get fired, and then I realized that they intentionally hired me, right? And they knew that I didn't have this experience and that I didn't come from a corporate background. So I just decided to do stuff, and Ross also does stuff.
And Ross, I understand that you already have ongoing career there, but it's still unusual as far as the roles you serve in the corporate.
Yeah, I came to it's my 11th year in Viacom. You know, Viacom is a huge media company, and for those who don't know, some of our channels include MTV, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, Spike TV. We have a movie studio called Paramount, which has also launched channels throughout the world. So we're in about 162 countries.
Channel 5 here in the UK.
Channel 5 here in the UK. And we are a very large company with really powerful brands who are all at different life stages. And so when you come to work in the company, I guess, my goal was just to try to have an impact and create or unlock as much value as I could. And the thing I think you're referring to is that I've never had a job in our company that anybody had before me, which is not something I think is common for most people in their careers, but like there's never been like a next job I was trying to get. I was just trying to do good work and create opportunities for myself, and so it's an example of how our company at the very top, at the CEO level, is empowering innovation by betting on people who can affect change.
And how is this policy translated through to your current task? Are you doing anything special or building anything around that innovation, or is it just kind of a horizontal role? What are you actually specifically both of you do to execute on these strategies?
TV, right? And TV, not the platform, but TV, the art form, is really in a state of transformation, right? The way that it's being distributed, how it reaches people, how these stories get told, to borrow the words from our last presenter, is being transformed. And our business model, the underlying business model, is also being transformed. The way that video is monetized is changing pretty rapidly with all these new platforms and distribution partnerships, new ad formats, all kinds of new monetization. So specifically, one big piece of the work that we're engaged in is around those underlying business models and how Viacom can really bring in new data sources and think about reaching consumers, creating context for advertisers in a new way. And that's sort of at the core of a lot of it, is how do we bring the digital operating system to linear media to traditional media and find a way to take the best of the internet and bring that to television, right? Instead of just
But
putting
do you think
television
that you're bringing the digital to linear TV, or maybe linear TV is less relevant and you need to bring that closer to the digital distributed
Well,
world?
you could say it either way. I think at the end of the day, nobody's saying, I think a lot of people agree that television is better than ever, right? The shows that are out there, the content that is out there is tremendous. But in a lot of homes, it's still locked up in a really unfriendly distribution ecosystem. Hard to navigate, hard to discover, not enough on demand. That's changing, and the technology is there to change it pretty rapidly. But for companies that have spent the last 40, 50, 60 years in a sort of very straight line distribution environment, you have to change a lot of things underneath to go embrace that new world in a way that's healthy and profitable and that continues to deliver the same high quality of content that people love and respect. So that, I think that's a big piece of our work. And then there's a bunch of sort of satellite innovation that happens around it. How do we work on platforms like Snapchat? How do we work with social partners across the house? How do we bring in the best of digital without introducing some of the challenges of around viewability and virtually unlimited inventory and all these other things?
Yeah, a lot of what Kern's talking about is how we are transforming the operating system of the plane as we fly it, right? And our company in particular, driven by channels like Nickelodeon or MTV, has an obligation to keep up and to constantly be in beta mode. And so like, we never stop questioning what we're doing. And there are hundreds of quiet innovations that go on in our company that we don't brag about maybe enough all over the world. And that's, if you look at it on the whole, you can really see the fundamental business model of Viacom transforming before our eyes, right? That's definitely happening. But what's also happening is that the belief system inside our company is super strong. And what I mean by that is we don't answer to the CEO or the board, we answer to our fans, right? This whole endeavor depends on the reach and connection between our brands and our fans. Is what we're making, creating a feeling, an emotion, something that you own and take with you in your life. And
yeah, so you know what, let me, if you don't mind, I want to dive on that point a little bit further. Speaking about the sentiment, which is I think is a very core element in engaging audiences in general. So I have a Nickelodeon channel, and my kids, I have to admit, I'm a very big fan of SpongeBob as well. I don't know why you guys market it as a kids show. And there is also
for the young at heart.
Okay, just to get them hooked while they're young, like, yeah, okay, gotcha. And there's also Dora and Diego, and these are all brands pretty much like Disney has maybe Mickey Mouse and Darth Vader and Spider-Man. Now, today we're getting all this packaged in a channel on a set-top box that's called Nickelodeon. So we have a bit of a sentiment to the Nickelodeon brand as well. But now that you'll maybe meet Diego and Dora and SpongeBob, not necessarily in that environment, how do you think it will shape up? Will you still keep the sentiment both for Nickelodeon and for the brands? Are the brands going to be more independent of the overall package?
Look, it's a great question. So you're asking one of the 3 or 4 big media questions that everyone wants to answer, right? And here's how I would answer it. I'd say, like, A, nobody knows how this is going to play out. What he's referring to is, like, are you watching SpongeBob or are you watching SpongeBob on Nickelodeon? And in the case of Nickelodeon, which is such a strong, well-lit, trusted brand by kids and families for more than 30 years, it is something that every parent like you can depend on. And so Nickelodeon shows up just like our other channels in lots of ways for viewers all over the world, right? Some of our content becomes toys and games. Nickelodeon is a huge consumer products business. Nickelodeon, I don't know if you guys have downloaded the Nickelodeon app yet, but has one of the most successful apps of any media channel. And so tons and tons of kids are watching what Nickelodeon produces right there on their mom's laptop or tablet. And for us, we just want to provide the best possible experience for our viewers. We don't really care in the end where you see our content because our business model is catching up to be able to monetize it everywhere. But we do want to make sure you have, as a user, no matter where it is, no matter how it's coming to you, the best possible experience with our content. And we also know that moms and kids depend on Nickelodeon to deliver that to them.
Yeah, I think it's it's such an interesting time, and I agree with Russ. This is a question we bat around all the time in different ways in the office. But if you think about the tenets of our brands and our business, I think multi-platform, right? On demand, fan-driven. These are what everything has to represent, and it all needs to fit into this framework. At the same time, as a consumer, as a member of the audience out there, to build on Ross's point, there is so much. There is more content than ever before. So how do you choose what aids in your discovery? I think that's where brands fit in. They're signposts. They signal, hey, here's what this is going to be about. Maybe you even think that SpongeBob is for kids because it's on Nickelodeon. Yeah. If we put it on late night at MTV, you'd think it was for young adults, right? Yeah. So I think it helps us place and locate this content in a world of virtually unlimited choice.
Yeah, I would just add one thing. People, I've been listening to some of the conversations here at unBound. And by the way, thank you for having us here at unBound. This is an incredible conference. We're really proud to be here. And you listen to the way people are using words like impressions, and then others are using words like engagement. Like, we land squarely in the world of engagement. At Viacom, we are all about you not just seeing something or seeing part of something, or us, sort of like maybe creating awareness for something. We want you to see what we make. We want you to love it, and we want you to take it with you. That to us is engagement. That to us is the difference between cultivating viewers and cultivating fans.
And I think the word, just if we look at terminology, and again, we talked before about the sentiment, which is what makes people connect with a certain brand or environment, and now we talk about, like you said, impression and experiences, but I hear something new as well, that TV always, I'm the internet guy, we're always talking about users, TV people always talk about viewers, and now you're talking about fan as a quantified metric. Is that kind of the new lingo you're trying also to educate other people?
That's how we think about it. And you look at the success of of Trevor Noah, who just relaunched The Daily Show on Comedy Central. And every day, Trevor Noah, who's brilliant and has great dimples, by the way, just like you, is winning new fans every night who are now coming back again and again because they can count on Trevor's take on the day and the state of affairs in the world. And so that kind of connection between the guy who's following Jon Stewart and has to win your heart and mind every single night, he's working his butt off to do it, but when he gets you, right, when you fall in love with that show and that host and you're a Trevor Noah fan, you stay forever. And that's a connection that most producers of video content would love to have.
But it's about that pivot from being a producer of video content and saying we make The Daily Show to we are in the Trevor Noah business. We are in the SpongeBob business. We are in the South Park business. And that's why, you look at South Park. South Park is a show. It's a movie, right? And soon we hope it will be an interactive theme park.
I have to admit, I have still these little South Park physical characters in my study.
Yeah, and they just keep getting better. Right?
We'll send you some more.
These one I purchased, but if you send, I will, as a good Jewish boy, I will not object.
Okay.
And if it's free, I will take 2. This is why we have 2 tablets in the Bible. It's a different story. Thank you for the guy who was laughing there. Now, I want to get also, you're very polite. I hear British people are polite, and thanks. Now, I also want to take it back also to the personal side of, because we look at Viacom as a big box of, but now we see here two very curious, smart, enthusiastic individuals. And I want to, when I was preparing for this panel, I know that both of you have a bit of background in writing. I mean, maybe a little bit left hemisphere writing and right hemisphere writing, right? But maybe you can tell a little bit, first, both of you can tell a bit about what you did in writing, and secondly, how you think that being a creative soul in that matter translate into innovation in a corporate.
That's a good question. So it looks like we're out of time. And no, just kidding. I went to poetry school, so I have a kind of an odd background. I published a book of poems, and I used to teach poetry.
It's called The Cop Who Rides Alone.
That's
the real title. You should check it out.
So
It's a little dark.
So when you grow up, or when you're trained academically to write poetry, and then you do that in the beginning of your career, you never think you're going to end up as a corporate tool in a big media company. But now that I am one, I think just my background in writing and creativity, I don't think I look at every challenge or opportunity like the same way as everyone else. I'm kind of looking at it like on a little bit of a slant. Like, Emily Dickinson said, tell the truth, but tell it slant. I'm kind of looking at things like a little bit off. And that gives me a perspective that's unique and often wrong, but always different and interesting.
This is like the worst question for me because my story is so lame by comparison. I wrote an IT security column for PC Magazine.
No, but PC Magazine is a wow name for tech geeks like,
But I occasionally put in little rhymes and puns just to mix it up. No, I mean, look, I think that Ross and I have a certain connection. We've been friends for a long time, and he's sort of the guy who convinced me to come to Viacom. But I think we do sort of look at this, as you said, left and right hemisphere. I think we think about art and science, and I always experienced Ross as one of the most scientific in sort of one of the most fluent creatives and marketers when it came to the science and the underlying tech. And he's helped me become a lot more creative with my approach to science as a result.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice
I think we realized together that, and this is a new thing for our company, and it's been exciting over the last year since Kern joined, is that we're at our best when art and science are working together. And there's so much art and creativity going on here at unBound, and there's so much science and technology going on here at unBound, and it's kind of awesome to think about how those two things go together inside a media company that's transforming right before our eyes.
Yeah, excellent. So, just before we wrap up, we now understand more that a corporate is not necessarily pencil pushers and so on, but it can actually be a place encouraging creativity, and you guys are kind of the innovation group together as Viacom. You're doing now something new around that?
Yeah, what we've done is we've created the Viacom Growth Initiatives Group, which is a close connection and alignment between our corporate business development teams and our innovation lab. So it's literally the place where the future of our company is beginning to play itself out. And we're able to experiment with new forms of storytelling, with new platforms, with new technology, and with new experiences, all driven by fan connection or fan demand. As we evolve the company in the midst of a pretty dynamic and fluid and exciting media business.
Yeah, excellent. And I think we're out of time, but this was a great talk. I really appreciate you guys coming here, and I look forward to continue. And guys, in the next few years, when you see Dora popping up on your hologramic projection pen to the sides of the wall, just remember where it started.
Thank you so
the guy
much.
started.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.